She screamed. Nobody heard. Locked in the convent's basement, pregnant at 17, the young nun was buried alive by the Mother Superior herself. 3 months, in the dark, without bathing, without a doctor, only a bowl of food pushed through the crack under the door. "The church's shame cannot be seen," the mother said, but the pregnancy wasn't an accident, and the child's father still lived in the convent. Nobody suspected, until the day someone heard crying coming from the basement. What they discovered down there shocked even the police. Comment: is the Mother Superior the villain, or was she protecting something bigger? Your opinion matters. My name is Clara. I am 17 years old, or I was when it all began. Today I am 18, but I feel like I have aged decades. What I'm going to tell here is not easy. In fact, I can barely believe I survived. But I need to speak. I need someone to know what happened inside that convent, what they did to me, and why. I always wanted to be a nun, since I was a little girl. My grandmother was devout, took me to Mass every Sunday, and I was enchanted by the sisters in white habits who distributed flowers at the altar. They seemed like angels, pure, calm, happy. I wanted that peace. I wanted to serve God. I wanted to belong to something greater than myself. When I turned 15, my parents let me enter as a postulant at the Our Lady of Sorrows convent in the rural area of Minas Gerais. It was an old place, with stone walls, narrow corridors, and a silence that seemed eternal. The windows were small. Light entered with difficulty, but I didn't mind. I thought that was spirituality. I thought sacrifice was part of it. The Mother Superior was called Sister Veronica. She was about 60 years old, had greying hair that never showed beneath her coif, and eyes that seemed to pierce one's soul. She was respected, feared, actually. No one contradicted Mother Veronica. When she spoke, all the sisters lowered their heads. I did too. I thought that was hierarchy. I thought it was discipline. In the first months, everything seemed normal. I woke up at 5 in the morning, participated in prayers, helped in the kitchen, cleaned the corridors, studied the scriptures. The other sisters were kind but distant. There was no space for friendships, only obedience and silence, much silence, until I met Father Augusto. He was about 40 years old, dark hair, gentle voice. He came to the convent twice a week to celebrate Mass and hear confessions. All the sisters respected him. They said he was saintly, that he had the gift of the word, that he was chosen by God. I believed it. At first, he only smiled at me. Then he started greeting me by name. "Good morning, Clara." "How are you, Clara?" I felt my face heat up. I had never received attention like that. I was invisible in there, but to him, I existed. One day, after confession, he asked me to stay. He said he wanted to talk about my vocation. I found it strange, but didn't question it. He was a priest. I was a postulant. It was my duty to obey. He asked me questions about my family, about my dreams, about what I felt. For the first time in months, someone wanted to know what I felt. I opened up. I told him about my loneliness, about my fear of not being good enough, about the pressure to meet expectations. He listened to everything attentively. At the end, he placed his hand on my shoulder and said, "You are special, Clara. God has big plans for you." I left there floating. The conversations repeated themselves, always after confession, always alone. He said I was mature for my age, that I had a different light, that it was hard to find someone so pure of heart. I drank in every word, because there, in that cold and silent convent, he was the only person who saw me. And then it happened. It was on a winter afternoon. The convent was empty. The sisters had gone to town to get supplies. I stayed to clean the chapel. Father Augusto appeared. He said he had forgotten something in the sacristy. He went in. I continued sweeping. He called me. When I entered the sacristy, he closed the door. My heart raced, not from fear, from confusion. He looked at me with an intensity I had never seen. He said he couldn't stop thinking about me, that I disturbed him, that he was fighting against something that was greater than him. I didn't understand. And then he kissed me. My body froze. My mind panicked. I didn't know what to do. I had never been kissed. I had never been touched like that. He was a priest. I was a nun. That was wrong. But he continued, and I couldn't react. When it ended, he stepped back. He looked at me with tears in his eyes and said, "Forgive me, I have sinned, but this is proof that I am human. God will forgive us." I left there in shock. I didn't tell anyone. I was ashamed. I was afraid. I felt guilty. I thought it had been my fault, that I had done something wrong, that I had tempted him. But it didn't stop. He came back, and came back, and came back, always with the same words, always saying it was love, that God understood, that we were different. And I, in my naivety, in my loneliness, in my neediness, believed it, until one day I realized my period was late. First, I ignored it. Then, I panicked. I took a test that one of the older sisters kept in the infirmary cabinet. Positive. I was pregnant. At 17 years old, a postulant, inside a convent, pregnant by the priest. I cried for hours, locked in the bathroom. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't tell anyone. I couldn't leave. I had nowhere to go. My parents would hand me back to the convent. Society would judge me. And God would condemn me. I told him. He turned pale. He was silent for long minutes. Then he said, "Are you sure?" I confirmed. He took a deep breath and said, "Don't tell anyone. I will resolve this." But he didn't resolve it. A week later, Mother Veronica called me to her office. As soon as I entered, I felt something was wrong. She was standing, arms crossed, with an expression of disgust on her face. "You are pregnant," she said. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. My world collapsed. "Who was it?" she asked. I didn't answer. She slammed the table. "Who was it?" I remained silent. I wasn't going to give up Father Augusto. He had said he would protect me, that he would resolve it, but he wasn't there. The Mother Superior approached. Her face was red with rage. "You have brought shame to this house. You have stained God's name. You are an abomination." Tears streamed down my face. I wanted to scream that it hadn't been my fault, that he had manipulated me, that I was just a girl, but my voice wouldn't come out. "No one can know about this," she said now in a low tone, but even more threatening. "If anyone finds out, the convent will be destroyed. The church will be disgraced. This cannot leave here." I nodded, confused. "What are you going to do?" She didn't answer. She just called two sisters. They grabbed me by the arms. "Where are you taking me?" I screamed. No one answered. They dragged me through the corridors. We went down a stone staircase. The air became humid, cold, dark. And then I saw the door. An old wooden door with an iron lock. The Mother Superior opened it. Inside was a basement. Small, no windows, just a straw bed in the corner, and a bucket. "You will stay here until the baby is born," said the Mother Superior, "and then we will decide what to do with you." They pushed me inside. The door closed, the lock slammed, and I was alone, in the dark, pregnant, abandoned. The first days in the basement were a nightmare. I couldn't believe what was happening. I kept banging on the door, screaming, begging them to let me out. No one answered, just footsteps above my head, muffled voices, prayers that seemed to mock me. The space was tiny. It must have been about 3 square meters. The walls were damp stone with mold stains. The smell was unbearable. There was a bucket in the corner for my needs, a straw bed that scratched my skin, and nothing else, no natural light. Just a weak bulb they turned on once a day when they brought food. The food. A bowl of thin soup, a piece of stale bread, water in a cracked plastic cup, that was all. They pushed it through the crack in the door as if I were an animal. I tried to see who it was, but I never could. Just a hand, always different, always in silence. I cried so much that my tears dried before reaching the floor. My body trembled with cold. My belly began to grow, and fear grew with it. Fear of childbirth, fear of dying there, fear that no one would ever know what happened to me. I tried to count the days by scratching the wall with a loose stone, 1 scratch for each time the light came on, but I lost count. I no longer knew if it was day or night, if a week or a month had passed. Time ceased to exist. I talked to myself. I talked to the baby. I apologized for him growing in that horrible place. I promised that if we survived, I would protect him. I would love him, even if no one else did. Sometimes I prayed, not because I had faith, but because I didn't know what else to do. I asked God to get me out of there, to show me a way, to give me strength, but he didn't answer. Or maybe he was too busy to hear a sinner locked in a basement. I thought about giving up. I thought about banging my head against the wall until it all ended. I thought it would be easier to die than to live like this. But something inside me resisted. Maybe it was the baby. Maybe it was pure stubbornness. Or maybe it was anger. Yes, anger. Anger at Mother Veronica, who locked me there as if I were trash. Anger at Father Augusto, who used me and then disappeared. Anger at the other sisters, who knew I was down there and did nothing. Anger at myself for being so naive, for trusting, for believing. But anger kept me alive. One day, Mother Veronica came down. It was the first time I saw anyone since I was locked up. She entered with a flashlight in her hand, illuminating my face. I was dirty, with tangled hair, my face swollen from crying so much. She looked at me with contempt. "You're still alive," she said, as if disappointed. I didn't respond. I just stared at her. "I hope you've learned your lesson," she continued. "Sin has consequences, and you are paying for your choices." My choices. I wanted to scream. I was a child. He manipulated me. He deceived me. But I said nothing, because I knew it wouldn't help. "When the baby is born, we're going to take it away," she said coldly. "You will never see it again. And then we'll decide what to do with you. Maybe it's better to send you away, or maybe it's better to leave you here forever. It depends on how much you cooperate." My blood froze. "No, you won't take my child from me." She laughed, a dry, cruel laugh. "Your child? You think you deserve to be a mother? You think God will allow a sinner like you to raise a child? Forget it, Clara. This baby is not yours. It never was." She left. The door closed again, and I collapsed. I cried until I had no more tears. I punched the wall until my fingers bled. I screamed until my voice disappeared, but no one heard me. Or if they did, they pretended not to. The days kept passing. My belly grew, my body weakened. I had nausea, but had nowhere to vomit except the bucket. I had back pains, but had nowhere to lie except the filthy straw. I had fear, but had no one to comfort me. Sometimes I heard voices upstairs, laughter, conversations. Life continued normally for them, while I rotted down there, forgotten, invisible. And the worst part, Father Augusto continued celebrating masses. I heard his voice through the walls, preaching about love, about forgiveness, about compassion, and I wanted to go up there and scream in his face, scream that he was a liar, a manipulator, a monster. But I was trapped. One night I began to feel contractions. It wasn't time yet, but my body ached. I curled up on the straw bed, hugging my belly, trying to breathe. I banged on the door. I screamed for help. Nothing. No one came. The pain passed, but the terror remained. What if I went into labor there, alone, in the dark, with no one to help me? I would die, the baby would die, and no one would know. That's when I understood. They didn't care. For them, it would be even better if I died. That way the problem would disappear. The shame would be buried, literally. But I wasn't going to let that happen. I started thinking about escaping. I observed the door. The lock was iron, heavy, but the wood was old. Maybe, if I pushed hard enough, but I had no strength. I could barely stand. I thought about screaming when someone came to bring food, but who would come save me? All the sisters obeyed Mother Veronica and Father Augusto. He wasn't going to risk his own reputation for me. I was completely alone. Then something changed. One day, along with the bowl of soup, came a piece of paper, small, crumpled, with a handwritten message. "I know you're there. Don't give up. I'll try to help. Sister Beatrice." My heart raced. Sister Beatrice was one of the youngest nuns. She must have been in her early 20s. She was always quiet, reserved, but I remembered that she looked at me with kindness, different from the others. I grabbed the paper as if it were gold. Finally, someone knew. Someone cared. There was hope. In the following days, she began to bring small things along with the food: a clean blanket, a bar of soap, a comb, a candle. Small gestures that seemed enormous in there. I couldn't speak with her, but I wrote messages on pieces of paper and left them next to the empty plate. Thank you. Please get me out of here. I'm 5 months pregnant. I'm afraid of dying in childbirth. Father Augusto is the father. He deceived me. I didn't know if she was reading them, but I kept writing because it was my only connection to the outside world. And then one night I heard something different. Footsteps, slow, coming down the stairs. The door opened. It wasn't time for food. My body tensed. Who was it? The light from a flashlight illuminated the room, and there she was, Sister Beatrice. She put her finger to her lips, asking for silence. Then she whispered, "I'm going to get you out of here, but not now. It's not safe yet. But I promise, you won't have this baby alone. I'll find a way." Tears streamed down my face. I couldn't speak. I just nodded, grateful. She handed me a rosary. "Pray, not to God, but for strength to endure a little longer. I'll come back." And she left. For the first time in months, I felt something other than despair. I felt hope, and hope, even small, is powerful. But what I didn't know was that things were going to get much worse before they got better. Mother Veronica found out. I don't know how. Maybe she noticed that Beatrice went down to the basement more frequently. Maybe she found one of the notes. Or maybe someone snitched. It doesn't matter. The fact is that 3 days after Beatrice's visit, everything fell apart. I was lying on the straw when I heard screams upstairs, loud voices, aggressive. Mother Veronica's voice was unmistakable, and the other voice was Beatrice's. "You have no right to question my decisions," the Mother Superior bellowed. "But she's a child. She's suffering down there. This isn't Christian. This isn't human," Beatrice shouted back. My heart raced. She was defending me, but I knew this wasn't going to end well. "She sinned," the Mother Superior responded. "She brought dishonor to this house, and you, by helping her, are staining your own soul." The one who sinned was Father Augusto. He manipulated her. She was a virgin. She knew nothing. Silence, a heavy silence, loaded. And then the Mother Superior's voice, lower, more dangerous. "Watch your words, Sister Beatrice. Accusing a man of God is blasphemy, and blasphemy has consequences. Consequences worse than locking a pregnant girl in a basement without medical assistance, without dignity, without light." The sound of a slap echoed through the house. I covered my mouth with my hands, holding back tears. Beatrice had been slapped because of me. "You are dismissed from your duties," said the Mother Superior with an icy voice. "You will be transferred to another convent. You will leave tomorrow morning. And if you dare say anything about this to anyone, I guarantee your religious life will end before it begins." Footsteps, door slamming, and then only silence. I collapsed. Beatrice was my only hope, and now she was leaving. I was alone again, more alone than ever. That night no one brought food, no water. I waited for hours. My belly rumbled, my throat burned with thirst, but nothing came. It was punishment, not just for me, but to show what happened to those who disobeyed. The next day, in the morning, I heard movement. Footsteps, suitcases being dragged, a car starting. Beatrice was leaving, and I couldn't even say goodbye. But then, something unexpected happened. Late at night, when the convent was silent, I heard the door lock being opened. Slowly, my body froze. Who was it? Was the Mother Superior coming to punish me more, or worse? The door opened, and there was Beatrice, with a backpack on her back and tears in her eyes. "I can't get you out of here," she whispered hurriedly, "but I won't leave you completely helpless." She opened the backpack and took out several things: a bottle of water, packages of crackers, a thick blanket, soap, sanitary pads, a small flashlight with batteries, and An old cell phone. It has no SIM card, she explained. But it has battery, and it has some saved contacts. If you manage to get out of here, or if something happens, use it. It has the number of the nearest hospital, the police station, and mine. I don't know what's going to happen to me, but if you need me, I'll answer. I grabbed the cell phone as if it were my life, and it was. Thank you, was all I could say, with a choked voice. She squeezed my hand. You don't deserve this, Clara. What they did to you is a crime. And one day, someone will pay for it, I promise. And she left. Forever. I hid everything under the straw, the flashlight, the cell phone, the food, everything that could keep me alive a little longer. And for the first time, I felt I had a weapon. Not against the Mother Superior, but against being forgotten. The following days were the worst. The Mother Superior reduced the food even more. Now it came only once a day, and in ridiculous quantities. A piece of bread, half a cup of water. It was revenge for Beatrice, for me receiving help, for me still being alive. My body began to waste away. I was in my 6th month of pregnancy but looked malnourished. My skin was pale, my hair was falling out, my nails were breaking. But the baby kept moving, and that gave me strength. One afternoon I heard new voices upstairs, male voices, strange. I tensed up. Who were they? Had someone finally come to investigate? Had Beatrice reported it? But no, it was just a pastoral visit. A bishop and 2 priests. They came to inspect the convent. The Mother Superior received them with all the pomp. I heard laughter, polite conversations, prayers in Latin. And no one mentioned the girl locked in the basement. I thought about screaming, about banging on the door, about making any noise, but the basement was isolated, and even if they heard me, the Mother Superior would make up an excuse. Rats, plumbing, imagination, and I would be punished later. So I stayed quiet, as always. But something was changing inside me. It was no longer fear. It was no longer despair. It was anger. Pure, burning, growing each day. Anger at being invisible, anger at being disposable, anger at being silenced. And anger made me make a decision. If I survived, I would tell everything, to everyone. It didn't matter what they did to me. It didn't matter what happened to me. I was going to expose that place, those people, that hypocrisy. But for that, I needed to get out alive. In the 7th month of pregnancy, I began having more frequent contractions, false ones still, but frightening. My body was preparing itself, and I wasn't ready. Not there, not alone. I used the flashlight Beatrice gave me to examine the space. I looked for exits, cracks, anything, but nothing. The walls were solid, the door locked from the outside, and the stairs leading upstairs were guarded. I thought about using the cell phone, calling the police, but there was no signal. I tried several times, nothing. The basement was too deep, and without a SIM card I couldn't make normal calls anyway. But I didn't turn off the cell phone. I kept it charged with the extra batteries Beatrice left, and I began recording audios, telling everything from the beginning. Father Augusto, the pregnancy, Mother Veronica, the basement, everything. In case I died, at least there would be evidence. It was around this time that I heard something disturbing. Late at night, voices above my head. Mother Veronica and Father Augusto, arguing. I pressed my ear to the wall and managed to understand some words. She can't stay alive, said the Mother Superior. When the baby is born, we need to resolve this once and for all. And what do you suggest? Asked the priest, nervous. There are orphanages far from here. Places where no one asks questions. We give away the baby, and she can have a complication during childbirth. My blood froze. You're suggesting, he began. I'm suggesting we protect the church, protect our reputation, protect you. She's a risk, and risks need to be eliminated. Silence. And then the priest's voice, low but clear. Do whatever is necessary. I couldn't breathe. They were going to kill me. They planned it, coldly. And he, the man who said he loved me, who said God would forgive us, agreed. That night I didn't sleep. I stayed awake, trembling, planning. I needed to get out. It didn't matter how. It didn't matter when. but I needed to get out before childbirth, because if I didn't get out, I would never get out again. I spent the following days observing everything, every sound, every movement. I learned to recognize each sister's footsteps. Mother Veronica had heavy, firm steps. The older sisters dragged their feet. The younger ones were quick, nervous. And Father Augusto, he had a way of walking I would never forget. Calm, confident, as if nothing could touch him. I discovered there was a pattern. Every day, around 3 in the afternoon, the convent was empty for about an hour. The sisters went to the garden in the back. The Mother Superior went up to the office. And the priest left right after morning mass and only returned the next day. That was my window. 1 hour, 60 minutes, maybe less, but it was all I had. The problem was the lock. I had no way to open it from the inside. But I began to notice something. The wood around the hinge was rotten, damp, weak. If I could force it, maybe the entire door would give way. I started working on it, slowly, silently. I used a sharp stone I found in the corner of the basement. I scraped the wood, millimeter by millimeter. It was painful, exhausting. My belly was heavy, my back ached. But I didn't stop. It took almost 2 weeks. But finally the wood began to give way. I managed to loosen one of the hinges. Not enough to open it, but enough to create hope. Meanwhile, my body was getting worse. I could barely stand. I had constant dizziness. I bled from my nose frequently. And the baby moved less and less. I knew he was suffering. I knew he was running out of nutrients, and that destroyed me. "Hold on, my love," I whispered, caressing my belly. "Just a little longer. We're going to get out of here. I promise." But promises don't feed, and promises don't open doors. Then something unexpected happened. One day the person who brought the food wasn't one of the familiar sisters. It was someone new. I heard the voice, young, hesitant, and when the bowl was pushed through the crack, I saw a face, wide eyes, frightened. It was a new postulant. She must have been about 15 years old. She looked at me and turned pale. You're pregnant," she whispered, shocked. I dragged myself to the door. "Please," I begged, "please help me." "They're going to kill me." She backed away, frightened. I can't. The Mother Superior said you're dangerous, that you're possessed." "Possessed?" I almost laughed in despair. "I'm just a girl like you. I was deceived. Please, you have to believe me." She shook her head, confused. "The Mother Superior said no one can talk to you, that you try to lie to get out." "Lie? Look at me!" I screamed, putting my hands in the crack. "I'm pregnant, malnourished, trapped for months. Do you think this is a lie?" She looked at my hands, dirty, thin, trembling, and I saw something change in her eyes. Doubt, and doubt was all I needed. "What's your name?" I asked, calmer. "Anna," she answered quietly. "Anna, I know you're new here. I know you want to do the right thing. But what they're doing to me isn't right. And deep down you know it." She bit her lip. I have to go." "Wait," I begged. "Just tell me one thing. Have you seen Father Augusto?" She nodded. "Yes, he celebrates Mass." "He's the father of my baby," I said, staring at her. "He manipulated me. He used me. And now he's pretending nothing happened while I rot down here." She widened her eyes. "The priest?" "Yes, the priest. The man who preaches about purity and compassion. He did this to me. And the Mother Superior is protecting him." Anna backed away, bringing her hand to her mouth. I didn't know." "No one knows," I replied, "because they hide it. But you know now, and you can choose, be an accomplice or be human." She stood still for a moment. Then, without saying anything, she ran up the stairs. I didn't know if I had managed to convince her, or if I had made everything worse, but I had nothing left to lose. That night, Anna didn't come back. Not the next day either. I thought I had failed, that she had told the Mother Superior everything, and that now it would be even worse for me. But then, on the 3rd day, the door opened. It was Anna, with red eyes from crying so much. "I can't stop thinking about what you said," she whispered. "I went to talk to Sister Marta, one of the oldest. I asked if it was true, if you were down here. My heart raced. And what did she say? She didn't deny it, Anna replied with a broken voice. She said you had problems, that the Mother Superior was taking care of you. But she didn't look me in the eyes, and I realized she was lying. Tears streamed down my face. So you believe me? She nodded. I don't know if I can get you out of here, but I'll try to bring better things. Real food, medicine, and I'll try to find out when the Mother Superior isn't around. I squeezed her hand through the crack. Thank you, Anna. You don't know what this means. She began to keep her promise. She brought fruit hidden in her pocket, pieces of meat, vitamins she stole from the infirmary, and, more importantly, information. The Mother Superior is traveling next week, she told me, whispering hurriedly. She's going to the capital, meeting with the bishop. She'll be gone for 3 days. 3 days. It was my chance. Maybe the only one. Can you steal the key? I asked. She shook her head. The Mother Superior keeps it with her all the time, but I can try to distract whoever is watching, give an excuse, make up an emergency. What if they find out? I'll say you tricked me, that I didn't know. She looked at me with determination. But I don't care, this is wrong, and I don't want to be like them. In the following days, we worked on the plan. I continued loosening the hinge. Anna brought a small tool, a screwdriver, hidden in her sleeve. With it, I managed to remove almost the entire hinge. The door was weak. A strong push, and it would give way. The Mother Superior travelled on a Thursday. Anna warned me. This afternoon, 3 o'clock, everyone will be in the garden. I'll pretend I'm sick and stay inside the house. When you get out, go straight to the road. There's a gas station 2 kilometers away. Ask for help there. I nodded. My body trembled with anxiety, with fear, with hope. When the clock struck 3, Anna came down. Now, she whispered. I took a deep breath. I put all the strength I still had in my body. I pushed the door. Once. Twice. On the 3rd time, the wood gave way. The hinge came loose. The door opened. I was free. I stumbled out. My legs barely held me. The light in the hallway blinded me. I hadn't seen natural light in months. Anna held me by the arm. Let's go. Quick. We climbed the stairs. We crossed the hallway. I heard voices outside. The sisters in the garden. We needed to be fast. But when we reached the front door, we heard footsteps. Someone was coming back. Anna pulled me into a closet. We squeezed our bodies into the tiny space between brooms and floor rags. My breathing was labored. My heart beat so hard that I was sure whoever was out there would hear it. The front door opened, footsteps entered, and then the voice that made me tremble, Mother Veronica. I forgot my documents, she grumbled. What carelessness. She walked straight down the hallway, going up to the office. Anna and I were paralyzed. If she went down to the basement and saw the open door, everything was lost. The seconds felt like hours. I held my belly, trying to calm the baby that moved restlessly. Quiet, I whispered mentally, just a little longer. Finally, we heard footsteps coming down again. The front door closed, the car started, and the sound moved away. Anna looked at me. Now, let's go. We left the closet. My body was too weak. My legs trembled, but adrenaline pushed me forward. We crossed the front door. The sun blinded me. I hadn't seen sun for so long that it hurt my eyes, but it was beautiful, incredibly beautiful. This way, Anna said, guiding me around the side of the house, away from the garden where the sisters were working. We followed a dirt path that led to the main road. Each step was agony. My body was exhausted. My legs barely supported me, but I couldn't stop. Not now. When we finally reached the road, I looked back. The convent was still there, imposing, gloomy, but I was outside, free. Go, Anna said, gently pushing me. I need to go back before they notice. The gas station is in that direction, 2 kilometers. You can do it. Anna, I began, with tears in my eyes. Thank you. You saved me. She smiled, with her eyes also teary. You saved yourself. I just opened the door. And she ran back. I was alone on the road. The sun was beginning to set. I had 2 hours, maybe 3, before they discovered my escape. I needed to be quick. I started walking. Each step was painful. My feet were swollen. My belly was heavy. My vision became blurry from time to time, but I continued, because stopping meant going back, and going back meant dying. I don't know how long it took, maybe half an hour, maybe more, but I finally saw the gas station, fluorescent lights, cars, people, life. I stumbled to the entrance. An attendant saw me and widened his eyes. "Miss, are you okay?" I collapsed on the floor. "I need help. Please, call the police." Everything became confused after that. Voices, hands holding me, someone putting a blanket over me, a woman offering water, and then sirens. The police arrived, 2 officers, a man and a woman. The female officer knelt beside me. "What's your name?" "Clara," I answered with a weak voice. "My name is Clara, and I need to tell you what happened. They took me to the hospital. On the way, I told them everything. Father Augusto, the pregnancy, Mother Veronica, the basement, the months of captivity, the death threat, everything." The female officer wrote everything down, her face becoming increasingly serious. "Where is this convent?" I gave the address. "But they'll deny everything. They'll say I'm lying." "Not if you have proof," she replied. "Proof, the cell phone, the audios." "I have it," I said, pulling out the device hidden at my waist. "I recorded everything." Her eyes lit up. "That changes everything. At the hospital, I was examined. Severe malnutrition, anemia, dehydration, and the baby. The baby was in fetal distress, needed urgent care, but was alive, still alive. They put an IV in me, they fed me gradually, and they let me rest. But I couldn't sleep, because I knew what was coming now, the confrontation. The next morning, the police went to the convent. I wasn't there, but they told me everything later. When the officers arrived and asked to speak with Mother Veronica, she received them with a polite smile. "How can I help you, officers?" "We received a serious complaint," said the chief. "A young woman named Clara claimed she was held in unlawful confinement here for months, pregnant, without medical assistance." The Mother Superior laughed, a forced, nervous laugh. "Clara? Oh yes, poor girl. She had psychological problems. Unfortunately, she had to leave the convent. But we never kept her prisoner." "This is absurd." "Then you won't mind if we inspect the facilities." The Mother Superior hesitated. "Well, you need a warrant, don't you?" "We have one," replied the chief, showing the paper. Her expression changed from polite to icy. "Very well. Feel free." They went down to the basement. They found the broken door, the tiny space, the straw bed, the bucket, the unbearable smell, and on the walls, scratches, hundreds of scratches. My attempt to count the days. The female officer took pictures of everything. "This is a cell." The Mother Superior tried to defend herself. "This is just an old storage room. We never used it for—" "We found hair strands, blood, biological traces. We're going to do an analysis, and if it matches the victim's DNA, you're in serious trouble." The Mother Superior turned pale. "And there's more," continued the officer. "The victim recorded audios, voices, including yours, planning her death." The Mother Superior backed away. That's a lie. We'll listen to the recordings at the station. You're coming with us." She was arrested, handcuffed, taken away under the shocked gazes of the other sisters. Some cried, others seemed relieved. And Anna told me later that she felt she had done the right thing. But one person was missing, Father Augusto. When the police went to the parish, he had already fled. He left a note saying he had been called for an urgent mission in another diocese. But everyone knew the truth. He knew I had escaped, and he fled like the coward he always was. But the police issued an arrest warrant and started the investigation, and they discovered something worse. I wasn't the first. There were other complaints, old ones, suppressed, buried, girls who had accused Father Augusto of abuse, but who were silenced, threatened, bought off. The church had protected him for years, and Mother Veronica knew. She always knew. The case exploded in the media. Pregnant young woman held in confinement by Mother Superior. Priest accused of abuse flees justice. Church concealed crimes for years. I didn't want to be the center of attention, but I had no choice. My face was in all the newspapers. my story, on everyone's lips. And opinions were divided. Some supported me. They said I was brave, that I had exposed the hypocrisy, that I deserved justice. Others attacked me. They said I was a liar, that I had seduced the priest, that I was trying to destroy the church, that it was revenge. But I didn't care, because I knew the truth, and the truth was recorded, documented, proven. Mother Veronica was convicted of unlawful confinement, mistreatment, and attempted murder. She got 15 years. Father Augusto was captured 3 months later trying to cross the border. He was convicted of sexual abuse of a vulnerable person, rape of a vulnerable person, and other crimes. 25 years. And the convent? Closed, sealed, investigated. Several sisters were interrogated. Some were accused of complicity. Others released for lack of evidence. But the damage was done. The church's shame that the Mother Superior wanted so badly to hide became public, and no lock, no door, no basement could hide it anymore. 2 weeks after my escape, I went into labor. It was on a Sunday morning. I woke up feeling strong, regular contractions. I called the nurse. She examined me and said, "It's time." I was terrified. Not about the birth itself, but because all of that was becoming real. I was going to be a mother at 18 years old, alone, with a story that no one would forget. They took me to the delivery room. The doctors were kind, but I saw the curiosity in their eyes. I was the girl from the convent, the one who had survived, the one who had exposed everything. And now I was there, about to bring into the world the living proof of what had happened. The birth was long, painful. My body was weak, malnourished. The doctors were worried several times, but I continued because I had no other option. And then, after hours of agony, I heard crying, a small, fragile cry, but alive. My baby, my son. "It's a boy," said the doctor, placing him in my arms. I looked at that little red face, wrinkled, perfect. He had dark eyes, fine black hair, tiny hands that clung to my finger, and something inside me broke. All the barriers I had built to survive crumbled, and I cried. I cried like I had never cried before. "Hi, my love," I whispered, kissing his forehead. "I'm your mother, and I will protect you, always." The following days were a mixture of joy and fear. Joy for having my son with me, fear of the future. I had no money, I had no home, I had no family support. My parents had abandoned me when the scandal broke out, saying I had shamed the family. But I wasn't completely alone. Beatrice came back. She had been transferred, but when she learned of my escape and the Mother Superior's arrest, she came back to see me. She cried when she saw the baby. "You made it," she said, smiling through tears. "You really made it." She helped me. She got me a spot in a support house for single mothers, a simple place, but safe, where I could rebuild my life. Anna also visited me. She had left the convent. She said she couldn't live there anymore after everything she had seen. "I thought I was serving God," she told me, "but I discovered I was serving hypocrisy." She decided to go back to school. She wanted to be a social worker, help other girls like me, and I supported her. But not everything was relief. The trial was approaching, and I would have to testify. I would have to relive everything in front of judges, lawyers, journalists, and Mother Veronica. The day of the trial arrived. I entered the courthouse with my son in my arms. He was 3 months old, chubby, healthy, beautiful. The proof that I had survived, that we had survived. Mother Veronica was sitting on the other side of the room, in an orange uniform, handcuffed. When our eyes met, I felt a chill down my spine, but I didn't look away. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me afraid. The prosecutor called me to the witness stand. I took a deep breath and went up. I swore to tell the truth, and I did. I told everything, from the beginning. Father Augusto and the manipulations, the pregnancy, the Mother Superior's discovery, the basement, the months of captivity, the hunger, the cold, the loneliness, the plan to kill me, everything. The room was in absolute silence. Some people cried, Others shook their heads, incredulous. The defense attorney tried to discredit me. Don't you think you're exaggerating? After all, the convent was just trying to protect your reputation. I stared at him. Protect my reputation by locking me in a basement, letting me starve, planning my death? That's not protection, that's torture. He tried again. But you admit you had relations with Father Augusto, correct? I didn't have relations, I replied firmly. I was manipulated and abused by a 40-year-old man who used his position of power to exploit me. I was 16 when it started. I was a virgin. I knew nothing, and he knew that. The attorney backed away. He had no more questions. Then it was Mother Veronica's turn to testify. She went up to the stand, calm, as if she were just fulfilling a formality. She denied everything. She said I was problematic, that I had dramatic tendencies, that the basement was just a space for reflection that I myself had asked to use. But then the prosecutor presented the evidence, the photos of the basement, the biological traces, and finally, the audios. Her voice filled the room, cold, calculating. She can't stay alive. When the baby is born, we need to resolve this once and for all. Her face turned pale. She tried to explain. I was nervous. I didn't mean it literally. But no one believed her. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all charges. When the sentence was read, 15 years in prison, she finally broke. She cried. She screamed. I was protecting the church. I did what was necessary. And that's when I understood. She really believed it. She believed that hiding crimes, torturing a girl, planning murder, everything was justified for the church, for the institution, for the reputation. But the church is not made of walls. It's made of people. And when people use God to justify evil, they're not serving God. They're serving themselves. Father Augusto's trial happened 2 months later. He also denied everything. He said I was obsessed with him, that I had invented the story to get revenge because he had rejected me. But the other victims appeared, 5 women, all with similar stories, all abused by him when they were young, all silenced by the church. And when the jury heard all of us, they had no doubts. Guilty, 25 years. When the sentence was read, he looked at me, and for the first time, I saw fear in his eyes, not remorse, just fear of the consequences. I left the courthouse with my son in my arms. Journalists surrounded me, questions from all sides. How do you feel? Do you think justice was served? What do you want to say to other victims? I stopped. I took a deep breath, and I said, justice was served. But that doesn't erase what happened. It doesn't give back the months I lost. It doesn't heal the scars. But it shows that no one is above the law. Not priests, not nuns. No one. And if you're going through something similar, know this. You're not alone. And you don't need to be ashamed. The shame is theirs, not yours. The cameras clicked. The questions continued. But I had already said everything I needed to. In the following months, I tried to rebuild my life. I got a job at a bakery. I started studying at night. I wanted to finish high school. I wanted to give my son a better future. Beatrice continued helping me. Anna, too. And other women who had gone through similar situations began to reach out to me. We created a support group, a safe space where we could talk without judgment, where we could heal. And my son, he grew quickly, beautiful, happy, without knowing the pain that had surrounded his birth, and I made sure to keep it that way. He wasn't going to carry my scars. He was going to grow up loved, protected, free. But I never forgot, and I never will forget, because what happened to me cannot be erased. It can only be transformed into strength, into fight, into voice, and that voice will keep screaming until no girl has to go through what I went through. 2 years have passed since that day in court. 2 years since my life exploded in the headlines and then slowly became mine again. Not the same life as before. It would never be, but a new life. built stone by stone, with hands that once trembled with hunger and fear. My son, Gabriel, is 2 years old now. He runs around the house, laughs loudly, breaks things, makes a mess, and I love every second of it, because each laugh of his is proof that the darkness didn't win, that the basement didn't define us, that we survived. I finished high school. It wasn't easy studying at night while taking care of a baby during the day, but Beatrice helped me. Anna helped me, and I discovered that when you have a purpose, tiredness becomes fuel. Now I'm in college, psychology. I want to help other people who went through what I went through. I want to be the voice I didn't have, the hand that wasn't extended to me, the hug I never received when I needed it most. The support group we created grew. It started with 5 women in a borrowed room from a church. Yes, a church, because not all of them are bad. Today we have more than 50 participants, women of all ages, all with stories of abuse, all trying to heal. Some were abused by priests, others by pastors, some by leaders of other religions, and some didn't even know that what they had suffered was abuse. They thought it was love, that it was God's calling, that it was destiny, but it wasn't. It was manipulation, it was crime, and they deserved to know that. Once, a 16-year-old girl showed up at the group. I'll call her Sophia. She was pregnant, scared. She said the pastor of her church had revealed that God wanted them to be together, that it was divine will, and she, raised to never question religious authority, believed it. When she told her parents, they threw her out of the house. When she told the church, they said she was a temptress, that she had seduced the pastor, and the pastor, he continued preaching, he continued being revered while she lived on the street. Hearing her story, I saw myself, the same naivety, the same fear, the same guilt, and I held her hand and said, "It wasn't your fault, and you're not alone." We helped Sophia. We got her shelter, legal support, and she reported the pastor. Today, he's being investigated, and she's rebuilding her life with her son in her arms, like me. But not all stories end like this. Some women I met couldn't continue. The weight was too much. The shame was too much. The rejection from family, community, church was too much. And they gave up, fighting, living. Every time I hear about one of these tragedies, my heart breaks, because I know it could have been me if Anna hadn't helped me, if Beatrice hadn't come back, if I hadn't found strength in that dark basement. I could have been just another statistic. Another problematic girl who got lost, but I wasn't. And now it's my responsibility to ensure that others aren't either. The church where it all happened was closed, the convent demolished. Today it's an empty lot, covered with weeds. But for me, that place never stopped existing. It lives in my scars, in my sleepless nights, in the moments when Gabriel cries and I panic, thinking someone will take him from me. I go to therapy. Twice a week. It's expensive, but necessary. Because trauma doesn't disappear on its own. It needs to be faced, named, processed, and even then, it never goes away completely. It just learns to coexist. My therapist asked me once, "Do you forgive them?" I was silent for a long time. Forgive Mother Veronica, Father Augusto, the sisters who knew and did nothing? I don't know, I answered honestly. Part of me wants to forgive, to free myself, to not carry this weight, but another part still feels anger. And I don't know if that's wrong. It's not wrong, she said. Anger is a legitimate response to what they did to you. And forgiveness is not mandatory. You owe them nothing, not peace, not understanding, not absolution. Those words freed me from a guilt I didn't even know I carried. The guilt of not being able to forgive, the guilt of still feeling anger, as if, being a victim, I had the obligation to be saintly. But I'm not a saint. I'm human, and humans feel anger, and that's okay. Today, when I look back, I see everything more clearly. I see how I was manipulated, how my vulnerability was exploited, how my faith was used against me, and I see that none of it was my fault. I was a child, seeking love, seeking acceptance, seeking God, and I found monsters dressed as saints, but I also found angels, Beatrice, Anna, the women in the group, my therapist, people who reminded me that kindness exists, that compassion exists, that humanity exists, and my son, my little Gabriel, who taught me that love doesn't have to be painful, that care doesn't have to be conditional, that family isn't who abandons you, but who stays. There are bad days, days when I wake up sweating, remembering the smell of the basement, the cold, the loneliness, the fear of dying there, forgotten. On those days, I hug Gabriel tighter. I look out the window. I feel the sun on my skin, and I remember, I got out, I survived, I won. But there are also good days. Days when Gabriel says, "Mommy," and runs to me. Days when I receive a message from some woman in the group saying thank you for existing. Days when I look in the mirror and instead of seeing a victim, I see a survivor. Recently I received a letter. It was from one of Father Augusto's other victims. She thanked me. She said that without my testimony, she would never have had the courage to speak, that she spent years thinking it was just her, that it was her fault. But when she saw me in court, when she heard me say it wasn't our fault, something inside her was freed. Today she's well, married, with children, happy, and she told me, "You saved me without even knowing it." I cried reading that letter, because I realized that my pain wasn't in vain, that my story, as painful as it is, helped someone, and that gives meaning to everything. I don't want to be seen as a hero. I'm not. I'm just someone who refused to be silenced, who screamed when they wanted me to whisper, who exposed when they wanted me to hide. And if that inspired someone, great. But I didn't do it for glory. I did it for survival. I did it because I had no other choice. Gabriel is calling me now. He wants me to play with him. He wants me to see the drawing he made. He wants me to be present. And I will, because he deserves a present mother, and I deserve to be happy. Before I go, I look out the window. The sky is blue. The sun shines, and I breathe deeply, free. There's something I learned in these 2 years. Silence kills, not literally, but it kills the truth. It kills justice, it kills hope, and it protects the guilty. For decades, Father Augusto abused, and for decades, Mother Veronica covered up, and for decades, sisters saw and said nothing. Why? Because speaking meant tarnishing the church's reputation. It meant creating scandal. It meant lack of faith. But the real scandal wasn't exposing the crime. It was allowing it to continue. Today, when I see news of new cases of abuse in religious institutions, and unfortunately there are many, my heart tightens, because I know that behind each headline there's a person who suffered, who was silenced, who carries invisible scars. And many of these people will never speak, out of fear, out of shame, out of guilt, because society still blames the victim, still asks, "What were you doing there? Why didn't you say no? Why didn't you escape earlier?" As if escaping were easy. As if saying no to someone who has power over you were simple. As if a child or teenager had the same capacity for judgment as an adult. They don't. And that's why adults in positions of power have responsibility to protect, to guide, to respect. And when they betray that responsibility, when they use faith, authority, manipulation to abuse, they need to pay. Not with easy forgiveness, not with silent transfers, not with secret agreements, but with justice, real, public, irreversible. I know many will say, but not all religious people are like that. And it's true. They're not. There are priests, pastors, nuns, incredible leaders who dedicate their lives to really helping, who live the values they preach, who protect instead of abusing, but that doesn't cancel out those who do the opposite. And defending the institution above the victims is complicity. It's choosing reputation over humanity. And that's not faith. It's hypocrisy. A few months ago I received a call. It was from a journalist. She was doing a report on institutional abuse and wanted to interview me. I hesitated. I had already exposed my story. I had already relived everything in court. Did I need to do it again? But then I thought, what if my voice reaches someone who's going through this now? Someone who thinks they're alone, who thinks no one will believe them, who thinks it's their fault. I accepted. The report was broadcast on national television. I told everything again. The basement, the hunger, the fear, the betrayal. And at the end, I looked directly at the camera and said, if you're going through something similar, know this. It's not your fault. You're not alone. And there are people who will believe you. Seek help. Report it, because you deserve to be heard. In the following weeks, I received hundreds of messages. Women, men, young people, adults, all with similar stories, all saying, thank you for speaking. I thought it was just me. And that's when I understood. My story isn't just mine. It's all of ours. Of all of us. Of everyone who was silenced, manipulated, abused by people who should have protected us. Gabriel will grow up knowing my story. Not now, of course. He's still small. But when he's older, when he can understand, I'll tell him. Because I don't want to hide it. I don't want him to find out from others. I want him to know that his mother fought, that she survived, that she transformed pain into strength. And I want him to know how to recognize manipulation. To know how to question authority when something seems wrong, to know that true faith doesn't require blind submission, that God, if he exists, doesn't need monsters to represent him. I look at the demolished convent sometimes. I pass by there when I go to visit Beatrice, who now works at an NGO for women's protection. The empty lot reminds me that places can be destroyed, but memories can't, scars can't. But it also reminds me that new beginnings are possible, that where there was once pain, something new can be born, that the end of something bad is the beginning of something better. Today, when I look in the mirror, I no longer see the scared girl who entered that convent at 15 years old. I see a woman, mother, survivor, fighter, and that's victory. It's not a perfect victory. I still have nightmares. I still have bad days. I still carry the weight of what happened, but I don't let it define me. I define myself by the choices I make now, by the love I give my son, by the help I offer other women, by the voice I use to scream when others want silence. And for whoever is hearing this story now, I want to make something clear. You don't need to be a hero. You don't need to be strong all the time. You don't need to forgive if you don't want to. You don't need to get over it in the time others think is appropriate. Healing isn't linear. Trauma has no expiration date, and you have the right to feel what you feel. Anger, fear, sadness. Everything is valid. Everything is human. But if you can, speak. Tell your story. To someone you trust, to a therapist, to the police, to whoever will listen, because silence protects abusers, and your voice can be the difference between another person suffering or being saved. Mother Veronica remains in prison, Father Augusto too. I don't know if they regret it. I don't know if they understand the magnitude of what they did, and honestly, it doesn't matter. What matters is that they can't hurt anyone anymore. And as for me, I keep living, day after day, step after step, with my son in my arms, with my future in my hands, with my voice in my throat, and that voice won't be silenced, never again, because if anything good came out of this nightmare, it was this. I discovered I'm stronger than I imagined, that I can transform pain into purpose, that I can be the light I needed when I was in the dark, and you can too. If you're going through something similar or know someone who is, don't wait. Report it. Seek help. Call 100. Go to a police station. Talk to someone you trust. Because you're not alone, and you deserve justice. This story is real, and it happens every day, in churches, in convents, in temples, in places where there should be protection, but there's predation. And it will only stop when we stop protecting institutions and start protecting people. Now I want to know from you, what would you do in my place? Would you have the courage to report it? Would you have managed to survive? Comment your opinion. I read them all. And if this story touched you, if you think someone needs to hear this, share it, because the more people know, the harder it will be to hide. And if you're a survivor of abuse, leave a heart in the comments. You're not alone. We're together, always. Subscribe to the channel for more real stories that need to be told. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any video. And remember, your voice matters. Use it.